And thanks smAsho team for joining. We're looking at the sun at 193 angstroms. We see practically no features whatsoever. We do see a little bit of activity rising in the northeast, as well as a small crown prominence up here in the north solar polar field. Otherwise, pretty low activity here, a little higher than we saw yesterday. And here we've got the 304 angstroms view. We do see some filaments rising there on the eastern limb, and there is some activity on the far side of the sun. We're not going to cover it too in depth, but we're going to show you a bunch of stuff, so stay tuned. Here's the colored magnetometer. We're going to show you this just for a minute so you can see how there are no field complexities happening. You don't see any significant blobs of magnetism there. Moving on. I'd like to mention the heliospheric current sheet, as this is a very important aspect of our solar system, obviously. This has to do with the plasma coming out of the sun, folks. This is a good rendition of it. I'll leave this on the screen for a moment so folks can take a moment to pause the video and perhaps read this whole section. Anyway, the heliospheric current sheet is the means by which the sun transports not only its plasma, but also its magnetism, and you could say electrical current throughout the solar system. It's the way that the sun and you interact on a very personal basis. And this, you can link to this from solon.info. I'll put a link in the description after the video. Real-time solar wind, showing a phi angle around 150. Solar wind density recently jumped up to 8.67 protons per cubic centimeter, and solar wind speed, 367. So that's a small uptick in the solar wind density. Let's look at more data. And there's the ACE data, looking similar to the Discover. There's where planets are located, and so on. There's where they'll be in 1 week. And moving a little bit farther out, there's where stuff is located above my head, the moon near its apex. And check out in-the-sky.org to create a sky map above your head if you're interested in things like Deneb, probably the most important star in the sky. Enough said about that. Let's go a little farther out. I'm going to show you a tutorial here on how to look up stuff on the Swift/BAT hard X-ray transient monitor at the Neil Garrel Swift Observatory. Just hit find. For instance, if you want to look up the transients of Sagittarius A star, the Milky Way's core, some refer to it as a supermassive black hole. We'll just call it a massive radio source at the core of the galaxy. There are the most recent transients in that. Lower left pane in blue is days, and not a lot going on from Sagittarius A star. Next, we're going to look up Cygnus X3, otherwise known as Deneb, as we just mentioned. And for that, you got to type in Sig X-3. There are the transients from that. And we did see some powerful transients about 20 days ago here, around day 210. Let's also look at the second strongest radio source in the sky, second only to the sun. A massive radio galaxy 500 million plus light years away, Cygnus A, otherwise known as the catchy title 3C405.0. And there are the transients for that. I would note that you're seeing a big transient spike in density here, as well as intensity, at the same time as Cygnus X3, something within our galaxy. And we're not going to give away too much, but yeah. And let's look up one other thing just for reference, the Vela pulsar, located totally on the other side of the galaxy, or the other side of the sky, you could say. And there's the Vela pulsar. It looks like it's actually ramping down a bit. Anyway, check out the Neil Garrel Swift Observatory, the Swift-BAT, that's Burst Alert Telescope, by the way. And there's a ton of transients being monitored. If there's a common object that you like, chances are it's being followed there. And here are the magnetosphere movies. We're starting out with the density, which has just recently ramped up. We should see some compression toward the end of this, as you would expect with a higher density. And that higher density is probably an indication that we're entering a coronal hole wind stream from a coronal hole that's recently closed up. However, those solar protons are still on their way, so we're expecting the density to drop down and the solar wind speed to jump up. And here's the pressure. We'll let that play through, as now we can see the 4 hours of data that we archive every day, since we're doing a little different format now. Thanks everybody for your words of encouragement. We appreciate that. And again, we are expecting an increase in the solar wind speed throughout the day and a downtick in the solar wind density. Another indication of a coronal wind stream. Let's look at geospace ground perturbations here. Not a whole lot of activity going on there, although the main activity is, as typically is the case, over the Canadian North Pole as opposed to the Siberian North Pole. For you new viewers out there, yes, we have 2 North Poles. And the South Pole continues to drift, creep, perform an excursion into the southern Indian Ocean. Let's look at even more stuff, such as our Patreon page, which is the main source of income for this channel. So if you want to support the channel, please join us on Patreon, as we are sending out exclusive stuff, early releases, all kinds of things nobody else sees. So patreon.com/smAsho if you want to support the channel, as YouTube pays us nothing for these videos. Also, check out our Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign, specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers. Links in the description below the video to this. There's a sale going on still for the hemp seed oil, suspended whole plant CBD, as well as some Kalki products. Those are certified THC-free products designed for athletes, as well as waxes and body butter and lip balm and so on. Even CBD for your pets. You like some fish-flavored CBD for your cat or something like that, check out the Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign, specifically for smAsho spaced out viewers. Also follow us on social media, places like Facebook, facebook.com/smAsho. We're also on Gab, an alternative to Twitter. And most importantly, we are on the future of social media, minds.com/smAsho. Minds.com, the open source social media that will not censor you. It will not shadow ban you. You'll see everything that's supposed to be on your news feed, and for that, we thank you, Bill Ottman. Also, if you enjoy the music that we regularly feature, check out soundclick.com/goldencatproductions. Links in the description to this as well. This is the newer, more heavily produced music. You can stream it for free, or you could add it to your MP3 collection. For instance, Le Tour de Chance is only 99 cents. So open up your moldy wallet and support our channel to help keep these videos in existence. GOES X-ray flux is still flatlined, as you would expect. KP index is at 2. Electron flux is looking like a more normal, smoothed out range, although I would expect to see a big dip in this today as that coronal hole wind stream arrives. We call it Proton Light, as it's not a true proton event, but the incoming coronal hole wind stream will exhaust the electron flux. Here are the current auroral forecasts, looking pretty weak. And let's look at the F2 ionosphere layer video. And here's the animation of the F2 ionosphere layer. Looking at the last 6 hours, each second representing 15 minutes. And it's actually looking very discharged at this point. Let's just bring up the latest image here after that plays through. There's the latest image. Quite discharged on the nighttime side, and a bit of an anomaly there right over top of my head, as I am in eastern Pennsylvania. Here's the GOES magnetometer data, looking like it's in a fairly smooth range here after a solid week of choppiness. Let's look at the Gong 2. Here's the Gong 2 data. And again, we do see some activity rising here on the east. When you see this bunched up plasma suspended like this, that's an indication that there's some kind of activity like a plage or a sunspot. We won't conjecture too much about it. Remember, this data is 1 hour and 11 minutes old. Earthquake rundown. Now, we've seen some odd earthquakes here, including one in Kansas, another 4+ magnitude there. Let's go down the list. About 23.5 hours ago, we see a 4.5 in Russia, right off the east coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula. Here's that 4.1 in Kansas. We're going to show you the shake map for this. There's the quakes that have been occurring there in the past few days. Looks like it's drifting to the northwest. Pretty odd scenario there. Please leave a comment if you felt that quake. And here's the rest of the list. 5.0 in Ecuador, a 4.5 in Japan. Now, we have been warning Western South America for a larger quake, as there have been a lot of deep quakes there in Western South America. Please leave a comment if you're viewing our videos from South America. We doubt it. 4.7 in Australia. That's a bit of an odd one. Let's zoom in on that. And there's a location of that, right off the coast of Mackay. Dear Australian viewers, if you felt that quake, please leave a comment. I believe this is the largest quake of the past 24, a 5.9 in the Northern Mariana Islands. Here's a 4.9. Right on top of that, looks like an aftershock. Here's a 4.3 at Chile. That one's at depth. Again, heads up Western South America for a larger quake at the surface. There's a Bolivian quake, also at depth. Ditto on that one. 5.2 in the South Sandwich Islands. 4.7 in Peru. A 4.8 in Indonesia. And a 5.1 at the South Sandwich Islands. Again, the 6 and 7 magnitude earthquake drought continues. And it's only a matter of time, folks. Earthquake droughts always end in earthquakes. Volcano rundown. Courtesy Volcano Discovery. We see Karimsky back on the list, producing a 9,000-foot ash plume there. Excuse me. Also Mount Aso, activity continued, cloud size unknown. Kadavar back on the list after exploding and producing a 5,000-foot ash plume there. Sanjiang Api, 8,000-foot ash plume there. Krakatau, some kind of an alert for eruption there. Very scary volcano. This has created some real estate just this year. Dukono exploding, 6,000-foot plume there. Popocatépetl exploding, 20,000-foot plume there. Sangay, 19,000-foot plume. Revenador, 17,000-foot plume. Nevados de Chilean, intermittent emissions and sporadic puffs and explosions at Sabancaya produce a 25,000-foot ash plume. Please do not attempt to fly your homemade ultralight helicopter over that, as it could end badly. Here are the pressure maps, courtesy windy.com. We see a powerful anticyclone there over southwestern Australia, as well as we see a big pressure disparity there over western South America. Powerful low pressure system here in the northern Pacific, as well as the southern Pacific. And let's move on to more stuff. Here's the jet stream in the western world. And there's a jet stream in the eastern world. Some extreme meridional jet stream flow in both hemispheres. If you're having weird weather, it's caused by the jet stream abnormalities, which are not caused by CO2 or any sort of human emissions. Don't let them tell you it's so hot that it's cold, folks, because that's not a thing. Here's the U.S. Doppler Radar. Most of the country getting a respite from the constant rain, flooding, crop loss, and so on. Let me read you the headlines as deadly weather hits all around the world. 7 children and 2 adults injured after lightning strikes down tree. China and Taiwan on alert for new tropical development. Downpours kill hundreds at Delhi. More snow and chilly air in Australia. Torrential downpour at Turkey triggers deadly flooding. Tornado there somewhere. At least 3 dead in Japan. due to Tropical Storm Karosa, or cyclone, or whatever they call it over there. So lots of nasty weather around the world, folks. Here's the water vapor scenario over the US. We see a generally clockwise rotation of the whole entire system here, as the jet stream is all out of whack and convective forces are largely ruling the northern hemisphere. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. Here's the view of the sun, 304 angstroms. And I actually meant to show you 94 angstroms. So there you have that. Again, there is some activity rising. You can see a tiny crown prominence there on the northern coronal hole solar polar field area. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.